A few days ago, Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Saudi Arabia and achieved fruitful results. China has accomplished what the United States and the Soviet Union failed to do. Many people have doubts. Why do the Arab countries headed by Saudi Arabia disregard the opposition of the United States and insist on offending the United States at this time and leaning towards China? It's worth discussing. Russia intervened in the Middle East to play a role, but it did so by intervening in the Syrian civil war. China did not launch a war in the Middle East. As a result, the entire Arab world actively moved closer to China. This has to be thought-provoking. Why? There may be the following reasons. The first reason, in today's world, only China has the ability to fully compete with the United States. In this world, the game between countries depends on strength, after all. Among the major powers in the world today, only China and Russia dare to compete with the United States. But only China has the strength to fully compete with the United States. In the past 6 years, the most typical case was, in terms of military affairs. In 2016, a confrontation broke out between China and the United States in the South China Sea. The two sides were at risk of losing their guns, but in the end the United States retreated in the face of China's toughness. After the military contest between China and the United States in the South China Sea, the illegal arbitration in the South China Sea planned by the United States for several years was completely killed. That confrontation proved that the United States did not dare to really confront China around China. Economically, the Sino-US trade war in 2018 was unilaterally initiated by the United States. But after a year or two of fighting, the United States was the first to fail. This fully proves that China's economic strength is not weaker than that of the United States. The United States has also launched a technological war against China. But facts have also proved that China's technology has not stopped because of this. Politically, on March 18, 2021, in the face of the United States' attempt to besiege China, China directly turned the table against the United States in Alaska and severely criticized the United States. That time proved that the political influence of the United States is no longer stronger than that of China. In terms of aerospace armaments, China's current aerospace technology has objectively surpassed that of Russia, and is on par with the United States. In the future, China-Arab relations will be good, and many Arab countries will be able to visit China's Tiangong. It is said that local tyrant Qatar spent $30 billion to jointly research space with China. In this regard, China is much more open than the United States. In terms of military technology, China's J-20 fighter jets, 055 destroyers, etc. For example, the 055 destroyer is equipped with anti-ship missiles with a range of 1,500 kilometers. This performance is really amazing. In late April this year, the mysterious missile tested by the Type 055 guided missile destroyer of the People's Liberation Army Navy was also believed to be a supersonic missile. The US media further revealed that the missile is an Eagle 21 supersonic anti-ship missile, with a flight speed of about Mach 6 and a maximum range of about 1,500 kilometers. The US media believes that the Type 055 guided missile destroyer equipped with the Eagle Strike 21 supersonic anti-ship missile is the surface ship with the highest single ship combat effectiveness in the world. Therefore, when you look at it this way, only China has the ability to fully compete with the United States. So, there is a psychological condition that favors China. The second reason, only China has long-term and stable support for Arab countries. Whether you really support the Arab countries. A very important criterion is dealing with the Palestine-Israel issue. China's position on the Palestine-Israel issue is consistent and clear. China is the only major country that truly supports Palestine on a fair basis. China emphasizes that the Palestine issue is always the core issue in the Middle East, which calls for an end to Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territory and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state based on the 1967 borders and with East Jerusalem as its capital in accordance with relevant UN resolutions. Program to promote a just, comprehensive, and lasting solution to the question of Palestine. The third reason, China has never bullied the small with the big, and has never been afraid of a hegemonic country. It can be seen from China's modern history that China has never bullied other small countries. On the contrary, because it has also been invaded by other countries, it can better understand the feeling of being bullied. And China's history of opposing foreign invasions has given these Arab countries a good example. Because Arab countries have been plundered by European and American countries for their resources. The fourth reason, cooperation with China can really benefit. Saudi Arabia has the best experience in 1987. Facing the dangerous regional situation in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia was very uneasy. So it asked China to buy ballistic missiles with the mentality of giving it a try. In 1987, China was undergoing market-oriented reforms, and the annual military expenditure of 3 million troops was only 20 billion. At that time, China was also short of funds, while Saudi Arabia needed a win-win cooperation. During the Gulf War in 1990, Iraqi Saddam as armored forces reached the border of Saudi Arabia. As a result, Saudi Arabia broadcasted the news that Dongfeng 3 ballistic missiles were erected on TV at night, and Saddam immediately gave up his invasion of Saudi Arabia. China purchases a large amount of oil and natural gas from Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries, and at the same time exports various commodities to these countries. Especially in recent years, Saudi Arabia and other countries have purchased a large amount of high-quality and cheap weapons and equipment from China. For example, Saudi Arabia directly spent billions of dollars to purchase the production line of drones from China. It is very likely that Saudi Arabia has also purchased UAVs and anti-aircraft missiles from China. These are the benefits of arms cooperation and oil cooperation. The benefits that Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries have obtained from China include a large number of Chinese manufacturing and infrastructure construction. For example, the infrastructure construction of the World Cup in Qatar is basically completed by China. Another example is that Saudi Arabia is building a new city, which is mainly completed by China. Fifth reason, only China has the ability and willingness to build an Arab country. Infrastructure construction requires the relevant countries to have strong industrial, manufacturing, and construction capabilities. And there is no other country except China in this regard. The key is that Chinese manufacturing not only has large production capacity, but also low cost. China is very clear that only by making the market bigger can more of the world's population be integrated into global industrialized production. The larger the scale of the economic cycle, the more everyone will benefit. Sixth reason, the United States is no longer an import market for oil and natural gas. And now the oil and natural gas of the United States has become a competitive relationship with the oil-producing countries in the Middle East. The United States is no longer an oil importer, but has become an oil exporter. The shale oil and shale gas in the United States have become competitors of the oil-producing countries in the Middle East. In this case, it is very unfavorable for the oil-producing countries to maintain the US-dollar oil system. Converting to US dollars can only buy US Treasury bonds, and it cannot be exchanged for more high-quality and cheap infrastructure. But accepting RMB is different. Arab countries can freely purchase goods and services from China. The key is that they are no longer affected by exchange rate fluctuations and can also obtain priority